Hello everyone, I'm back with another video for you today, and I've been playing a lot of the new expansion, Infinity Evolved in Shadowverse, and I thought I would bring you guys some day one decks so that you can have something to play and try out, or a baseline for yourself if you want to build something and brew something up. Let's jump right into the decks. Okay, the first deck we have, it's going to be Runecraft. Now this is an archetype that is going to be still very strong, I think, in this setting in this expansion, because you just got a lot more tools for the Runecraft deck, which was already very powerful. And you can just slot them into the old archetype, essentially. You've got cards like the Burgent, which quite a lot of people are running. It's giving you these onions, which are very annoying, but they are essentially 1/1 rushes, which give you spell boost whenever they attack. So you can get this perpetually with the Crest, if you evolve her, getting a 1/1 onto the board every single turn, which is quite obscene, actually. A lot of value. So this is another great 5-drop along with the Anangrea that you can play in the deck. There's also Norman, which I think is a really powerful card. It's a 6-drop legendary, and it's going to be a bomb, essentially, that is going to be able to either heal you up, summon a 3/3 with barrier and ward, or even draw 3 cards. So quite often I'm using this in the deck to play the double golem with barrier. It's actually a very strong play on turn 6. A lot of decks really struggle to deal with that. Alternatively, in aggro matchups, you can save him for the 8 heal, which is very, very strong, stops you dying against things like Abysscraft and the like. So Norman is very, very good to use in the deck. Of course, you don't have to play him, and there are some versions of Runecraft at the moment going around which don't run him, and there's a lot of good cards you can play in the deck. Right now I don't have William or the Flames, the new 3-mana, board damaging spell. So those are definitely options you could try to slot in the deck. It's difficult to have everything, do you want the Ruler of Cocytus? Well, you might have to cut something else if you, if you want to play him. If you want to play 3 Demonic Cool or 3 Blaze Destroyer, again, that's going to be something you're going to have to decide to cut cards. Do you want to cut your early game cards? That's an option. So there's different things you can do here, and certainly you might want to run the William. The William and the Flames are quite common. I've been finding they're not necessarily the best, unless you're running into a lot of Havencraft, but this is what I would go with. So that's Runecraft. Next up, I have Artifact Portalcraft, another deck that I think is very strong, should be very strong. I haven't got an exact version of what people are playing necessarily here. This is sort of just coming off the cuff of what I've seen and what I think I would play if I were going to play something, Portalcraft, artifact heavy. But this deck became very strong, I think, with the new cards. You've got Artifact Catapult, which allows you to very easily summon more copies of your 5-mana artifact. So you can play Beta Artifact, which deals 3 damage to the face, several times in this deck, very easily, many, many times. You can play it 5-6 times, perhaps. Doomwright and this kind of stuff. We've got the Flight of Icarus to card draw later on, which I think is pretty decent-ish, okay card. I don't know, this card, I see it played, I don't know if it's actually worth it. I mean, you're going to be able to get quite a bit of card draw from it, because you're going to play the artifact several times that you're using this on, so that's an option. I'm not sure if it's 100% correct. We've got Carnelia. You can sometimes use the Evolve ability there to do some cheeky things. Can't destroy, the artifacts that you then summon with Doomwright and Artifact Catapult, but Karula is the really key card. Very powerful 6-drop, essentially an Alouette, which doesn't need an evolve, but if you do super evolve it, you can deal 2 face damage, essentially kill 2 units. So that can be very powerful, and this deck is just incredible at pushing face damage with the beta artifacts and, Orcus in the late game, and of course, Ralmia. You can maybe just only, only craft the beta artifacts to deal face damage, and that is a perfectly good game plan with this deck. So, very strong one. Let's go to the next. Okay, more Portalcraft. Here I've got a puppet deck. I don't think puppets are that popular. I think the deck is okay. It's not really got that many new inclusions. We're going to be playing Odin, of course, to deal with Wilbert and things like this, and because we like to go face in this archetype in general. So that's a pretty good card. It fits in the curve nicely as well. It's a card you could even consider in the artifact deck as well, I suppose. I might have seen it a few times. Probably is quite helpful against Wilbert, so think about that as well if you're going to play artifacts. But yeah, puppets, nothing much to say here. It's a deck. It's probably decent-ish. Maybe an A tier deck, a B tier deck, something like this. You've got the Zwei, sorry. I don't know why I say Zwei. But this is very powerful, giving you the 6/1 that can immediately kill a 6 health unit and has ward and rush and all this stuff. So pretty nice deck, but probably not the best, I would say. Probably not going to be the best this expansion, but an option for you if you want a fairly cheap deck. Next, we have some Control Abysscraft. This is what I was playing and running, but you can experiment with the cards here. There's many different versions of the sort of more control-y, grindy Abysscraft. A lot of them are playing the 2-mana new spell that puts a lot of, a ghost and a a skeleton and a zombie into the hand. I forget what it's called, but the 2-mana spell there is quite good for grinding. This is the version I had. I don't know if it's the best, you know, but it certainly is very good at grinding down opponents, and it's very good against Havencraft. It's good against Portalcraft, I think. You've got all the healing with the bat combo. That's something that I don't think a lot of people are running, so you can decide for yourself whether that's worth it or not. Might not be worth it. I've definitely lost mirror matches and been out-grinded by people running more undead soldiers and things like this, and I've been aggroed down sometimes as well even. So, but yeah, I think Abysscraft pretty strong. You've got the new 9-drop, which of course helps the control archetype a lot, because you can just completely clear the opponent's board and heal up very easily in the late game. One of the best grindy decks, you know, this combined with Medusa, very, very strong, even Odin as well, to just, yeah, a lot of good control tools. And honestly, the Charon as well is kind of a standout. You can reanimate 2-drops and 1-drop. You can use her to throw an Evolve on a 2-drop. So, you know, if you're bringing back a Phil, for example, it's quite good, or an Orthrus, get that Evolve on the unit, and then you have a pretty decent play. Worth noting, this can also reanimate a 1-drop, so later in the game with this particular deck, you can drop her on like a turn 10, for example, maybe 2 of these, and get the Cerberus 1-drop that is spawned. You know, something like the 2-1 can be quite strong and deal a bit of extra face damage in the late game. So quite a cool deck. Not sure this will be, you know, the optimized control list in the end, but this is one you can try. And sticking with the Abysscraft theme, we're playing a bit of aggro with this one. Very decent deck, I think. I've been getting body slammed by this kind of deck quite often, just because they have a lot of 1-drops, so they're, you know, always hitting the 1, and then you're spamming out ghosts with this card. You know, it gives you ghost to hand. You've got ghosts with this Ghastly Soiree, that's what it's called. That card's also probably good in control. Winged Servants for a couple of bats on the board is really annoying. When you combine that with the Moonstruck Vampire, giving them Storm, you actually have quite a lot of face damage with this deck. You just throw the Evolves onto all of your, you know, cards that can go face, you know, on a ghost, on a bat, and quite quickly you're just killing the opponent. Of course, you've got Cerberus to finish the game out if you need it. You've got Odin as well for more face damage. You can always play Aragave Evolve. So this deck is just a pain in the ass, honestly. It just kind of kills you sometimes, you know, depending on how well they draw. You might want to run a bit of card draw in the deck. I'm not 100% sure if they're running that. So if you're running, you know, if you do play this deck and you run out of juice, you might consider running a bit of card draw, you know, in the form of predation or this kind of thing. That might be what the deck needs. But yeah, I think this one's a pretty solid aggro deck if you're looking for that. Next, we have a bit of Swordcraft. I think having a bit of struggles is Swordcraft, because you've got, you know, Havencraft and things like this, which a little bit difficult to deal with, but in theory, Swordcraft should be pretty decent. You've got the new Gildaria card, which can super evolve automatically after rallying 20 units out. So this is when you've played 20 units, essentially, summoned them. And this can be a very powerful play, because you get 7/7 super evolved card, 2 Steelclad Knights, which can then hit the board, and you're dealing 2 damage to the enemy board. If you combine that with the Grimnir new card, you're able to also deal 2 damage to their board. So 4 damage board clear with a super evolve. It gives you more grind potential in the late game, and this deck was already very good at grinding people down, so I think this is an option. You can play 1 of Urius as well. That is something that this deck could run, so consider that, or maybe 2 of Urius even, if you fancy it. So yeah, not a bad option. I think probably going to be your best bet if you're going to play Swordcraft. There is the new 2-mana gold card, the Prim, which you could also consider running. I've seen that here and there, so consider that if you want to take a different 2-drop out perhaps, or maybe some of your later game as an option there. Next up, a bit of Forestcraft. This was given to me by Doro Piano, who's in my Twitch chat a lot of the time. This is a fairy deck, but you're then using potentially Rose Queen as a finisher, Aria as another way to chip in damage to the opponent. You've got this Titania card, which is very strong, enables you to get a fairy into your hand every turn after, you know, you play it on turn 4. And you can transform an enemy into a fairy, which is very useful against things like Wilbert, of course, pretty good into Cerberus for Abysscraft and things like this. So definitely a decent option, the Titania, and it's going to allow us to get a lot of fairies, which we can then use in conjunction with the Rose Queen as a potential way to finish the games out in the late game. Alternatively, we're just going to play Aria and hit the face with a lot of fairies, bouncing. You know, you've got the Cynthia card, which is actually not even that bad, I think. Maybe underrated, this card. Lets you get some fairies out on the board. So yeah, this deck's quite good at, I think, overwhelming the opponent with just a lot of stuff on the board every turn that they have to deal with, and eventually chipping enough damage to kill them. But maybe not the best. Gonna struggle against Havencraft and this kind of thing, but I'm certainly interested to try some Forestcraft. That's the deck I'll be playing more of in the coming days. I should probably talk about Havencraft. I've been, you know, not talking about it for a while now. So Havencraft, pretty strong. Definitely very popular the first day of the patch, because you've got all of these new Havencraft legendaries. You've got the Wilbert, of course, very, very powerful and a key card. When you evolve him, you get the crest, which gives you your wards +1/+2, which is very, very powerful. And of course, he summons two 4s essentially with ward as well. So you really want to be answering this with Odin, with a lot of decks, definitely. Otherwise, it's a pain in the ass to deal with. And of course, you synergize this with the Aether to summon a bunch of wards from your deck that are then going to be buffed up, and you can give them all aura. Very sticky board, very difficult to deal with, very annoying. And then you throw in a Gian at the turn 8 to just smack the opponent's board, buff yours up, and often win games if the opponent's not got an appropriate answer to what you're doing. So quite a nasty deck, a little bit one-dimensional in some way. You know, a lot of people are playing Unholy Vessel to board clear when you need it, and even some of them are running the Griffin, which can go face and deal damage to finish games out. Otherwise, you're lacking that sort of final push to win you the game a lot of the time. You're just sort of stuck in a board, clashing with the opponent, but not actually being able to end games. The Divine Guard is actually a very good card, I think. Very annoying, allows you to deal damage when you've got a big Wilbert or a big, whatever, Gian, that kind of thing in the late game. So quite a nice card there. And some decks are playing Lapis. If you want a way to grind games out, the Lapis could be good. Alternatively, you might consider, again, the Griffin. There's other options, of course. You can run the heal cards, or potentially even the 5-drop that banishes. There's a lot of options here, so experiment a bit with Havencraft. Find the build that works for you. Do you want more healing for aggro decks? Do you want to be good in the mirror match? There's options there, so I'm sure you'll figure it out. And I have an aggro deck for you. Sorry, not aggro, I have a ramp deck for you. I'm not sure if ramp is very good, to be honest. I've played against it a bit. You might even want 3 Fenny in this deck. I really don't know how the ramp deck wants to be built exactly. But something like this, Draconic Strike is a pretty good card, I will say. I think it's, it's ramping plus board clear, which mostly when you're playing a ramp card, it's not doing that much. I mean, the Liu Feng can. But ramping into Draconic Strike can be very strong. If you get an early Fenny, maybe a Genesis Dragon for 8, this is an option of a deck. I don't think it's that good. You need to card draw once you've played the Fenny with maybe Ivory Dragons and, Golden Harmony and this kind of Golden Note Melody, and this kind of thing to hopefully find your late game. But it's going to be a bit inconsistent, I think. Well, that's an understatement, really. And I'm not sure about Feline. You probably don't need that card in this deck, but I think it's quite a strong card in general. Good 2-drop. Good later gameplay as well. So that's ramp. I wouldn't recommend crafting this unless you're a huge ramp fanatic, because I don't think the deck's very strong. And I do also have another version of ramp, which I think might even be better, which is going all in on Cocytus and essentially cheesing the opponent by ramping into the Draconic into the Cocytus, play it on turn 8, and hopefully win the game with that. I've played some games with this deck. Again, I don't think it's that strong, but you can win, even against the best decks, if you are able to find your perfect curve and things go very well for you. So, not the worst deck. Getting an early Cocytus can be very, very strong, but it's a bit cheesy and it's certainly very inconsistent. I think that's the main issue with the deck. You've got this new Neptune card in ramp, which is quite cool as well. Allows you to heal a lot and get those 2/2s on the board, clear the board up. So there's some cards here. It's just still a bit too slow, I think, the ramp deck. Playing the ramp cards out, even with this Draconic Strike dealing damage, it's a bit mediocre, I think. But yeah, those are the decks that I have for you guys. I hope those are helpful, and I hope you find something that you'll be able to play for the early days in the expansion. With that being said, thank you very much for watching. Subscribe as always for more videos, and do check out my Twitch channel if you want to see me actually playing Shadowverse. I'm streaming most days on Twitch. Link is in the description. Anyway, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.